Think hospital water is just water? Think again. Join us on our podcast for a deep dive in hospital water treatment. From cutting-edge technologies to expert insights sponsored by Legionella Specialties. Discover how we keep it clean and safe. Tune in and stay informed.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into something that might not be the most glamorous topic.
Oh, yeah.
But it's super important, especially for those of you listening in the healthcare world.
Definitely.
We're talking water safety.
Water safety.
Specifically in healthcare facilities.
Right.
We're going deep on the 2024 Joint Commission standards. So these are really the gold standard, right, for ensuring patient safety.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're going to try to break down what these new standards mean for all of you. And to help us do that, we're using this awesome guide published by Legionella Specialties.
Great resource.
They are the experts in the field, so, we're getting, like, the real deal practical information here.
For sure.
Fair warning, though, some of what we're going to uncover about this bacteria might be a little surprising.
A little unnerving, even.
Yeah.
When you think about hospitals, you don't always think about the water systems.
No.
But the risks from things like Legionella are very real.
Right. So maybe let's start there for our listeners who might not be super familiar with this.
Okay.
What is Legionella, and why is it such a big concern specifically in healthcare?
So Legionella, it's a type of bacteria that can cause a really nasty form of pneumonia.
Okay.
It's called Legionnaire's disease.
Right.
And it's especially dangerous for people who are already vulnerable, like those with weakened immune systems.
Makes sense.
And of course, that's a lot of people in hospitals.
Right.
And the thing about Legionella is it loves warm water environments.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Yeah, so think about all the places in a hospital with water systems.
Showers, sinks.
Exactly. Showers, sinks, even air conditioning units.
Yeah.
And it's not just a theoretical thing we're talking about.
Right.
Outbreaks have happened.
Oh, yeah.
And the consequences for patients and the facility's reputation can be really serious.
Yeah, that's definitely a situation you want to avoid.
Absolutely.
So that brings us to these updated standards from the Joint Commission. Why the update? Why are they emphasizing water safety now?
Well, the Joint Commission, they're always looking to improve healthcare quality and patient safety.
Right.
And they recognize that these waterborne pathogens like Legionella, they're a significant threat.
So it's about being proactive.
Exactly. They want hospitals to have strong plans in place to prevent these outbreaks from happening in the first place.
Not just reacting after the fact.
Right.
So, practically speaking, what do these new standards actually require hospitals to do?
So the standards are pretty comprehensive, but they're also designed to be achievable.
Okay.
They focus on 4 key areas.
Let's hear them.
First, risk assessment, then developing a water management plan,
Okay.
regular testing,
Got it.
and having procedures in place for corrective action if any problems are found.
Okay, so it sounds like having a clear plan is key.
It is.
Where do hospitals even start with all of this?
Well, the first step is that risk assessment I mentioned.
Okay.
They need to identify all the potential sources of Legionella growth in their water systems.
So it's like they're mapping out every single pipe, every single fixture.
They have to understand every nook and cranny of that plumbing,
Wow.
from where the water enters the building to every point of use.
Okay, so once they have that map, then what?
Then they start analyzing each component for those risk factors.
Right, so what are some of the risk factors they're looking for?
For example, is the water temperature in a specific pipe within the range that Legionella prefers?
Okay.
That range is 77 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit.
Got it.
Are there any areas where water might become stagnant?
Right, because that would allow the bacteria to multiply.
Exactly. So it's all about finding those potential problem spots.
That makes sense. It's kind of like detective work almost.
Yeah.
You're looking for clues that could point to bigger issues down the line.
You got it. And once you've identified those potential problem areas, then you can start figuring out how to mitigate those risks.
Okay, so that brings us to the water management plan, or the WMP, as I think they call it.
Right.
What exactly does that involve?
So the WMP, it's basically the hospital's roadmap to water safety.
Okay.
It outlines all the steps they'll take to control and monitor the water quality.
Like what kind of steps are we talking about?
Temperature regulation,
Uh-huh.
disinfection procedures, system, maintenance, the whole 9 yards.
So it's a multi-layered approach.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's not just one thing, it's a whole system.
Exactly.
You mentioned disinfection earlier, so walk me through that. What does regular disinfection look like?
Typically, hospitals use chlorine or other disinfectants to keep those bacterial levels in check.
Okay.
It's all about making the water system as inhospitable to Legionella as possible.
So you're making it really hard for that bacteria to survive.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see how complex this all is.
It is.
It's not just about keeping the water clean, it's about managing a whole system to prevent a very specific threat.
You're absolutely right. It requires a level of expertise that goes beyond your typical plumbing maintenance.
Right.
This is specialized stuff.
So just to make sure I'm following. The water management plan covers identifying risks, putting those controls in place, and then regular disinfection.
Right.
Is there anything else that's part of that?
Yes, there's one more super important element,
Okay.
and that's testing.
Right. And of course, you got to make sure it's actually working.
Exactly. Hospitals need to regularly test their water for Legionella and other bacteria just to ensure those control measures are working.
That makes a lot of sense. Regular testing would help catch any problems early on, right?
Absolutely. Early detection is key.
Right.
If they find high levels of bacteria, they can take action immediately to prevent a full-blown outbreak.
So it's all about being proactive and staying ahead of it.
Exactly.
I can see how all of these elements work together to create a really comprehensive approach to water safety.
It is a comprehensive approach.
So let's say a test comes back positive for Legionella. What happens then?
Okay, so a positive test triggers a very specific set of procedures.
Okay.
And these are all outlined in that water management plan we talked about.
Yeah.
It might involve things like increasing the disinfectant levels, flushing the system with really hot water, or even temporarily shutting down parts of the system until the problem is solved.
So it's like a whole protocol they have in place for dealing with those situations.
Precisely. And it's really important that everyone involved knows exactly what to do if that happens.
That makes sense. Having a clear plan of action is essential.
It is.
So we've talked about the plan, we've talked about the testing, but this is obviously a team effort.
It is.
Who are all the players involved in making sure this runs smoothly in a hospital?
Well, it's not just the responsibility of the facilities team.
Right. It takes a village.
Exactly. You need buy-in from every level, starting with strong leadership from the top.
Okay. I see. That makes sense. A culture of safety starts at the top.
Right. Someone at the top needs to champion water safety and make sure it's a priority for the entire facility.
And then what about the folks on the front lines? What role did they play in all of this?
Everyone who interacts with the water system in any way needs to be part of the solution.
Nurses, doctors, even housekeeping staff.
Exactly. They all need training on the risks, how to operate and maintain the equipment properly, and what to do if they see something that seems off.
Right. So training is a big piece of the puzzle.
It is.
What kind of things do they need to know specifically?
They should understand the basics of Legionella bacteria, why it's a threat, how it spreads, but they also need to know the hospital's specific procedures for things like flushing faucets, collecting water samples, and reporting potential issues.
So it's like empowering them to be the first line of defense?
Absolutely. They are the eyes and ears on the ground.
Now, you mentioned earlier that hospitals have to regularly test their water. What kind of testing are we talking about here?
So the testing procedures, those are outlined in the water management plan.
Right.
And often involve multiple parameters.
Okay.
They'll be looking at things like oxidation reduction potential.
Okay, that sounds pretty technical. Break that down for me. What is oxidation reduction potential?
So oxidation reduction potential, or ORP, it's basically a measure of the water's ability to break down contaminants.
Okay.
A higher ORP value means the water is more effective at disinfecting itself.
So a higher ORP is a good thing.
Exactly, it means a safer environment.
Got it. What else are they measuring?
They'll also be testing for ATP.
ATP.
That stands for adenosine triphosphate,
Okay.
which is a molecule found in all living cells, including bacteria.
Oh, interesting.
So high ATP levels indicate a high level of microbial activity, which means they need to investigate further to see if there's a problem.
So it's like a general indicator of how much bacteria might be present.
Exactly. And of course, they'll be monitoring pH levels as well.
Right, because I know Legionella prefers a certain pH.
They prefer a slightly alkaline environment.
Got it.
So keeping the pH in the right range can help discourage their growth.
So you're creating an environment that the bacteria don't want to be in.
That's the idea. And finally, they'll be checking chlorine levels.
Okay.
Chlorine is a common disinfectant. So it's important to make sure there's enough present to effectively kill bacteria.
Okay, so all of these tests together paint a pretty clear picture of what's happening in that water system.
They do. It's a very data-driven approach to safety.
I like that.
Yeah.
And, the guide mentions some pretty advanced technology being used now.
It does.
What are some of the most impressive advancements you've seen?
Well, one exciting development is the use of real-time monitoring systems.
Okay, tell me more.
These systems use sensors to continuously track things like water temperature, pH, chlorine levels,
Mm-hmm.
and they send alerts if anything goes outside the acceptable range.
Wow, so it's like having a constant watchdog on the water system.
Exactly. And then there are systems like WaterGuard MO, which this guy talks about.
Yeah.
This technology, it actually combines monitoring with automated disinfection.
Wow.
It provides that extra layer of protection.
So are these technologies becoming more common in hospitals?
They are becoming more widespread. Yes, especially as hospitals look for ways to streamline their water management and improve safety.
Yeah, I can see why it makes a lot of sense.
It does.
But even with the best technology, human oversight is still crucial, right?
Absolutely. Technology is a great tool, but it's not a replacement for well-trained staff and a solid water management plan.
So let's say despite all the best efforts, Legionella is detected in a hospital's water system. What happens then? What are the next steps?
So a positive Legionella test triggers immediate action.
Okay.
The first priority is containment,
Right.
prevent further spread.
Makes sense.
That might involve isolating parts of the system, increasing disinfection levels, or flushing the affected areas with high-temperature water.
This is all about acting quickly to mitigate the risk.
Exactly. Then the hospital needs to conduct a thorough investigation to figure out how the contamination happened.
Right. Was there a lapse in maintenance? Did a control measure fail?
Exactly. Finding the root cause is crucial to prevent future incidents.
So it's about learning from mistakes and constantly improving the system.
Precisely. And throughout this entire process, documentation is essential.
Okay. Why is documentation so important?
It serves a few purposes.
Yeah.
First, it helps demonstrate compliance with the Joint Commission standards.
Okay.
So if there's ever an audit or an investigation, they'll want to see evidence that the hospital's taking this seriously.
Right. So it's like having a paper trail to prove you're doing everything right.
Exactly.
Right.
But it's also valuable for tracking trends over time.
Interesting.
By analyzing historical data, hospitals can identify patterns, refine their water management plans, and continuously improve their safety protocols.
So it's a never-ending cycle of assess, improve, reassess.
It is. That's the nature of water safety.
Makes sense.
It's not a one-time fix. It's an ongoing commitment to vigilance and continuous improvement.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here,
We have.
but it feels like we've only scratched the surface of water safety.
It's a big topic.
And this focus on healthcare facilities has me thinking, are there lessons here that apply to other places too?
Absolutely. While the Joint Commission standards are specific to healthcare, the principles behind them are relevant everywhere.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Think about hotels, office buildings, even your own home.
Right, any building with a complex water system could potentially have these issues.
Exactly. And a lot of the same strategies apply.
Like what?
Temperature control is a big one.
Yeah.
Make sure your hot water heater is set high enough to kill bacteria, generally above 120 degrees Fahrenheit,
Got it.
and keep cold water cold below 77 degrees.
Right, so you're keeping it outside of that danger zone.
Exactly. That's where Legionella thrives.
So those temperature guidelines are important no matter where you are.
Absolutely.
What about other things like flushing the system? Is that something everyone should be doing?
Flushing is a great way to prevent stagnation.
Okay.
If you have any faucets or shower heads that haven't been used in a while, run the water for a few minutes to clear out any standing water.
Yeah, I'll admit I don't always think about that.
It's easy to forget about the pipes behind the walls.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Right. But it's worth making it a habit.
Okay, good tip.
And speaking of things people might not think about,
What's that?
shower heads and faucet aerators can harbor bacteria too.
Really?
It's a good idea to clean those regularly. You can soak them in vinegar or use a disinfectant specifically for plumbing fixtures.
These are all such simple things,
Yeah.
but they can make a big difference.
Absolutely. And if you ever have any concerns about the safety of your water, don't hesitate to contact Certified Water Testing Lab.
That's good advice.
They can give you peace of mind.
It's always better to err on the side of caution when it comes to something as important as water.
For sure.
At the end of the day, it's about protecting people's health.
That's it.
Whether we're talking about hospitals or homes,
Right.
the goal is the same, to create a safe environment where people don't have to worry about the water they're using.
Well said.
This deep dive has been incredibly informative.
It had.
I've learned so much about Legionella bacteria, the importance of proactive water management, and the role of technology in keeping our water systems safe.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure sharing this information with you and our listeners.
Likewise.
And I hope everyone listening feels empowered to ask questions and advocate for water safety in their own lives.
Me too. And remember, listeners, if you want more information on this topic, the guide we've been referencing from Legionella Specialties is a fantastic resource.
It really is. They've done a great job breaking down this complex topic into practical, actionable steps.
So whether you're a healthcare professional, a building manager, or just someone who wants to learn more about keeping their water safe, there's something in there for everyone.
I agree.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of water safety.
Great discussion.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we'll catch you next time for another fascinating exploration.